You're the fixer.
Hi, Kenneth. All right, I have 9 o'clock, so we're going to go ahead and get started. If everyone would stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Pat, would you do the roll call, please?
Ms. Anderson? Here. Mr. Cox?
Here.
Mr. Floral? Mr. Hardeman? Mr. Horn?
Here.
Mr. Jones?
Here.
Mrs. Storr? Here. Mr. Chairman, we have 5 board members present, therefore we do have a quorum.
Okay. I'd like a motion to approve the minutes of the prior board meeting.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I will second.
All those, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. All right, we'll go through the across the board. The Chief Financial Officer, CFO candidate update. The General Manager and Board conducted Zoom interviews the first week of May with 4 candidates for the CFO position. Then between May 17th and 20th, 2 finalist candidates were brought to Fairfield Glade and interviewed by the GM, board members, and the senior management team. We are in the process of gathering the feedback from the interviews and hope to have the CFO named by the end of May, with a start date yet to be determined. We will continue to provide updates as we move through the candidate selection process. Common property transfer of ownership. The transfer of common area property from Wyndham to the Fairfield Glade Community Club, in accordance with the amended and restated Declaration of Covenants and Restrictions dated November 5th, 1997, has started. The ownership of the common properties will be transferred to the FGCC in batches over the next 12 months, and I'll explain this a little bit better after we get through this. The Town Hall on funding capital investments. A capital funding plan was presented to the membership at the May 21st Town Hall at the Center. The capital requirements, as well as the funding for the recently completed reserve study, were included. Funding required for the next 10 years, were presented with the planned expenditure of $70.5 million for the projects which included things like Druid Hills, the Emergency Services Center, Racket Sports Complex expansion for pickleball courts, upgrades at Heatherhurst golf courses. This is a major step forward in the evolution and growth of Fairfield Glade Community Club and a major investment in our collective futures. The presentation can be viewed and downloaded at the Fairfield Glade Club's website, www.fairfieldglade.cc. Board of Directors election. There are 2 at-large board seats up for election this year. There will not be any incumbent candidates eligible to run in this election. Candidate packages are currently available and must be completed by noon, June 5th. We encourage all eligible property owners to give consideration to running for the board. An eligible property owner is someone who is a member in the good standing and has owned property here for at least 3 years. The board will be hosting a candidate orientation on May 29th at 3 p.m. at the administration office upstairs conference room. All candidates are expected to attend. The election committee plans to have additional opportunities for candidates to understand the role of the board, and there is a Meet the Candidate Night scheduled for July 25th. Druid Hills Golf Club project. The first phase of the project, the putting course and driving range, are complete. The grass on the putting course is sprouting, the grass on the driving range is maturing, and practice on the range off the match should begin in early June. The second phase of the project, the Golf Performance Center, is progressing nicely with all underground piping and conduit installed and the concrete slab poured. Work will continue with the target completion date in October. The third phase of the project, the clubhouse and site work conceptual design, is complete and ready for the presentation. A town hall is scheduled for June 6th at 3 p.m. in the center to update the community on the 3 phases of this exciting project. The presentation will be live streamed and a video of the presentation will be posted on the website. Members who would like additional comments, make additional comments regarding the Druid Hills Golf Club project can reach out to the Druid Hills Steering Committee and subcommittees by sending email messages to these committees at druidhillsprojects@fairfieldglade.cc. Emergency Services Complex update. AEI of Cookeville continues to work on the architectural design and engineering work for the Emergency Services Complex project. The site survey reports, including the topographical surveys reports, have been shared with AEI, and they have developed options for the orientation of the new ESC on the proposed site. We are proceeding with soil samples in the area of the of the site. The latest draft of the proposed architectural drawing and the preferred orientation option were received on Monday afternoon and will be previewed with the board this afternoon and then shared with the ESC planning group for review. Robin Hood Park Bocce Ball. Concrete has been poured for the 2 bocce courts. Work will continue as the weather permits with a target date of August. Members can view updates for all major projects on the members' website homepage under the Major Projects tab. Wildwood Stables update. The Wildwood Stables Committee met at the library in Room C to report on the activities of their working groups and to inform guests and committee members on action items. Committee members conducted a Wildwood tour that took place on April 4th. The barn and pastures were reviewed with a focus on what is possible and could be in the future. The vendor working group is working on qualifications, recruitment, and marketing, should that be a viable option going forward. The in-house working group is working on identifying any resources that can be utilized to assist with improvements, such as the Tennessee Agricultural Department. The interim working group is working on basis to complete identifying what is needed to know, such as the number of horses boarded, boarding costs, lists of equipment needed, pastures, and other considerations. The next Wildwood Stables Committee meeting is posted on the club's website at www.fairfieldglade.cc. This is the May update for across the board. Now I'm going to go into a little bit more detail about a couple of these. One is the transfer of common property. In our covenants and restrictions, that common property actually should have started being transferred to this club back in 1997 and was not. Wyndham owned it, and they still own it, but that's starting to get taken in batches, and we expect to have 4 batches. We've gotten to the first batch already, and we have to take a look at what the condition of all those lots are and that type of thing, and work with Wyndham about transferring those deeds and everything. So the good news is with that is that we, as a club, have been doing the maintenance on all those lots already. So this is not going to be an additional operational expense from the standpoint of doing maintenance, mowing, things like that. We've already been doing that. That's part of our responsibility. So what will happen is the biggest charge that we see coming forward as we transfer these properties, and it'll come in batches, will be mainly the property taxes with the county, because those come over with the property. Okay. So that started now with the first batch. We anticipate 4 batches of these properties coming over. There are a couple that are going to be ones that we're going to have to take a look at, because there's some that have been what I would refer to as construction dumping sites in the past. There's a very limited number of those, but we want to make sure those are cleaned up before we take ownership of them. So all of that is in the works, and we've started that process now. There's not much for us to do right now because we've gotten the list of properties. We are looking at what those properties are, what they are, and how they are. And the next big thing will happen when Wyndham gets a hold of us about transferring the deeds. And we've kept our attorney involved with this process, and we'll continue to do that as we move through it. So we'll update you as we get more information. There's not much to add to that right now, because that's just where we are. Another thing that I want to talk about is the reserve study. So some of you have been to the town hall, some of you were at the workshop yesterday. We talked about it as a board, and I want to give you where I think we are with making the reserve study available. There is no intention to hide anything from anybody here. That's never been our intention. This never will be our intention. But this is a document that's got a lot of detail to it. So what we're going to do is we'll make the documents available. But those of you that want to see it, we're going to schedule a class so you understand what you're looking at, so that you can take a look at seeing what we're talking about, because these are not small documents. And what I mean by that is this. The actual reserve study itself is 112 pages. The worksheets are for 667 or 65 assets, which over 30 years of sales creates almost 20,000 cells that need to be explained. That's not a slow news item, and if you sit down and just take a look at the document without some kind of education on what you're looking at, you're not going to understand it. So we're going to require people that want to see it to attend an education session, which we'll set up. I just talked to Jonathan, and he'll get together with the appropriate people, and we'll get a schedule when that's going to happen. The other thing is that you'll have to view it in our office. We're not going to let you make copies of it. And the reason why that is that we have to have version control. This is a living document. It changes every month. It will change every budget year. And if we got multiple versions out there, somebody may be talking about something that's been completely changed from that time. So the documents will be made available, but you'll have to look at them in the admin building, most likely. Now, the other thing, the reason why I tell you that is it's too large of a file to even send. Our email system will not try it because we tried to send it to the board members. It's too large a file. So if you want to see it, it's going to be made available, but there's going to be conditions with it. The other thing that you will have to go through in the education process is not only is there this 20,000 cell document sitting out there that is the whole study, which starts from year 1 and goes through year 30 for 645 assets, we have a 5-year view of that, which is what we're using for planning of what will go into the budgets for the reserve study going forward. So we'll go through that document, which is probably going to be a more manageable document for you to look at because that's where our focus is. But it gets changed as we take a look at assets, something breaks and we have to do something about it. A new asset comes online and now we have to plan for it. So it's a living document as well. And so even though it's a lot more detailed, it's still one that you've got to take a look at and understand how those cells are put together. The final thing that we will do is that every time from here on out when there's going to be a car presented, and there'll be 4 of them today, I believe, we will tell you if those are going to be a part of the reserve study that we've already approved with the budget for 2024. So you'll get clarity that the car that we're approving is a part of the reserve study, and we'll go through some of those today. The second thing we'll do is that we will clearly point out, both for O&M and capital, what those projects are associated in the budget process for the reserve study. So you'll see every year as we start putting those budgets together exactly what's going to be the real budget for those things. And that's going to change those worksheets, because the other thing that you're going to have to look at, and we're going to educate you on, is the process that we're following in terms of reviewing those documents. Because they have to be looked at every year, and sometimes even every quarter, to make sure that we have them aligned with what's really going on with the assets that we have here at Fairfield Glade. So I know that people, and I've had several people contact me, so I get it, think that we're trying to hide something. It's not that it's trying to hide anything. This is a very complex document, and if you don't understand the whole document, you will understand none of the document. And you certainly will not understand what the board is trying to approve in the budget process and that type of thing. So there's going to be some required education, and we'll go through it that way, but we will try to as best we can, to get you educated, and then we'll let you have at the documents, and you can look at them any way you want. What we probably won't do is a whole lot of reviews on those documents because we have to do those reviews anyway, and you'll see the results of those review in the budget process, in the cars, and those kinds of things. All right? Any questions on any of that?
Nico Sergio, community club member since April of 2005. First question was, what happened?
Nothing. You're doing fine.
Is Lake Melbourne considered a common property, and will we take ownership of that property?
Yes, it is part of the common property. It's not in the first batch, but it'll be in one of the batches.
Second question is the Wildwood Stables Committee. I believe it was last May, it was presented at the board meeting or the workshop that the Trails Committee wanted to put some trails up on that property. It's like 300 acres. Is that still ongoing, and are the Trails Committee people meeting with the Wildwood Stable Committee so that they can put some trails up there?
It depends on what we do with the Stables Committee, okay? That request was really a request of the current leasee to allow us to put trails there. And it was really worded, if we do have another leasee, to make room for those trails to go in. We're still looking at what we're going to do. So until we know, there's nothing to put in a document for a leasee or to make that statement. But we know about the trails that they want to put in. We don't see any real conflict with what goes on, whether it's a leaseor or we doing the work. But yeah, it's part of that process.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm not quite as tall as Nico. First of all, Greg, okay, let's try it again. First of all, I'd like to thank the board for the what you did on the reserve study and releasing it. I think that's going to go a long ways to the community understanding what that report does and how it's going to be used in the budget process and moving forward. My questions regarding the property transfer from Wyndham. My question would be, what are we getting for the fact that we're taking the property taxes on? We're relieving them of a burden that they want to get rid of. So I'm looking for maybe what we're going to get in return. And then it's a little bit into the details, but I know there are properties that abut, for lack of a better term, people that own property. And these people have approached Wyndham in the past about getting that property, and Wyndham has kind of put them off. Now, are we going to try to move some of those properties and therefore legally get stuck with all the legal ease, the title, and so forth when Wyndham should have that
Well,
responsibility?
two things. Number one, what we're getting for the property is really a non-starter. You have to go back to the CNRs that were written in 1997. It was anticipated in 1997 that those properties would be transferred over to the community club. They did not do that. So literally since 1997, they have been paying the taxes on that property. We haven't had to incur that. But at any time, Wyndham could have made those transfers happen. And we don't have a right of refusal on that. There is no right of refusal in the CNRs. Those common properties should have been transferred back in 1997. So get into a discussion of I want this or I want that is a non-starter. The second piece is what we anticipate those, well, I better be careful here because I haven't seen a final number, so I'm not going to get into that. But let me put it this way. For the amount of property we're getting, I do not believe what we see in terms of what the taxes are going to be is abusive at all.
Okay, and I respect that. I know it's a different situation, different. But, you know, when we had to actually trade the property that the driving range was on for the property behind the firehouse because it wasn't transferred in 1997 like it should have been.
Hold on, you're
with all
talking
the
about
other properties.
apples and oranges here.
I understand they're
We
different.
got that property from the declarant, not Wyndham.
I understand, they're
Okay.
different,
S-
but
So this is not that kind of property.
I understand it's different. But you're playing one end, we have to do it, it should have been taking place. Well, the other one should have taken place too.
Well, as you well know, we went through this back when we transferred that property. The declarant got that property from Wyndham as part of the deal as becoming the declarant. That was not our deal. That was between Wyndham and the declarant. We had no say in that. So therefore, the property that was owned by the declarant is the property that we wanted for the driving range, and we made that exchange. And you can go back in the minutes, and you can see all of the actions that were taken, all the updates that were given, and I'm not going to drag everybody through that, but it's all documented in there, what we were doing and why we were doing it. So this is a different situation. These are properties that should have been moved over to the community club back in 1997 and were not. So I know you may have a different opinion of that, but that's the fact. Okay? Anything else on that? All right, hearing none, we'll go to the treasurer's report. Bruce?
Good morning, everyone. Today, in your packet, you have the treasurer's report, which is all the numbers. Well, and that's going to be on the website, of course. And a bit of the context will also be up there as I let you know what's going on behind those numbers and what some of those mean. So as of the end of April this year, the club experienced so far this year an increase in activity over the budgeted amount in the golf department. Year to date, the budgeted rounds for all courses in the Glade was 28,367. Currently, the club has 30,796 rounds played, which compares to 29,883 rounds played last year to date in 2023. So it's a comparison to the year to date on both. Now, this is an increase in the budgeted rounds, also increases the revenue per round from $49.40 in 2023 to $49.71 in 2024. Cost of sales is trending a little higher than budgeted in the year, but within the range of expectations as freight charges increased and the cost of sales marginally. For the marinas, current year revenues are down by 16% to the budget and 19.5% to prior year actuals. Again, this is a slower part of the season and a considerably rainy month in April. But my plants are growing great. The club fully expects to meet revenue goals for the year. We do. You know, it's coming up on the season. Overall, the negative variance to budget is 2.7K. Racket sports is seeing an increase in revenues driven by pickleball. Yay, pickleball, which I have a need to prove it, by the way. Year-over-year revenue from pickleball has increased 31.5% over 2023 and 60% better than the budgeted year-to-date amount. They're going great guns. So play more pickleball, everybody. We love it. Food and beverage has not met budget expectation with revenues down 18% in the snack bars and 13% overall. Covers have decreased from 33,770 to 30,553 at Stonehenge. Cost of sales has decreased from the prior year of 43.2% compared to 41%. However, it was budgeted at 35%. As activity continues to grow, the average for the year should come more in line with expectations. Again, we'll see what happens at the end of May. I'll give you a report on that then. Property Owners Association is also doing well with 37,419 favorable variance to budget, with community maintenance leading the way. Hey, Sam, outstanding. This is mainly due to savings in 2 positions in community maintenance, which now have been filled. The police department is still just realizing the timing issues with grant revenue and expenses. That's a timing issue. And if anybody has dealt with grants, you know how that goes. You do your work and you keep working with it. Sewer department is still experiencing a decrease in tap fees and is expected to grow as the season and homes come online. That's just what's happening. With that in mind, though, the sewer department is still operating with a surplus to budget, as the expenses for those sewer taps are not being recognized until the work has begun. Again, it's one of those timing issues, snapshot in time. In terms of the balance sheet overall, the club is in strong cash positions and is preparing for some, obviously you heard on the other day, on Tuesday, about new projects, big projects beginning shortly. And I'm sure there's going to be some questions, so come on up, Tom.
I guess I'm glad I'm so predictable. I want to reset a little bit from yesterday, and I do have a question, so a few of them, but it's my understanding in yesterday at the workshop meeting, when we go through the finance piece of it, and it's been my understanding, you know, the finance director will present the finance area, the board has a chance for Q&A, and then we have a chance for Q&A. Typically, when I get up for the questions, I'm listening to the board's questions first so that I'm not stepping on any toes. Second thing is I'm asking questions that I, for one, and I hope the members, are looking for answers, things that jump out at me. So I was informed that a lot of that discussion and some of those questions I ask actually takes place in the workshop. So I'm kind of ahead of the game, maybe, on my questions. Well, I respect that. Maybe they don't have time to look at all the answers and so forth. My request would be to come back to us today and either give us the questions that you ask with the answers, or I will, Bruce, I felt your explanations were better this month overall. I still think there's more detail that we are deserving of, because I think there are big items that we kind of are glossing over. For example, we lost $104,000 in food and beverage for 1 month at Stonehenge. Now, there's an explanation, I'm sure. But rather than not tell us, give us the explanation. It's a big number. Let me also take and just say that, you know, I understand there's differences month to month. Last month, I talked about the cost of sales being around 29%. And I got a lot of feedback and so forth as to why. This month, it was 57. That's a big swing, folks. Let me just take in the other part, and so that'd be a question for an explanation. The second part is, so we mentioned, or you mentioned, Bruce, sales being up at Stonehenge. Our, what I call guest counts, people using it, down from previous year by about 3,000. And our average check's up almost $4. So if we're seeing higher sales, lower people using it, prices have gone up, I get concerned about it because it seems to me, and I don't know the details because we don't get those, the only winner in this is Bobby Jones. Raised prices, okay? Raise prices, drive people away, not going, and they come out the winners. So I know that's a lot of dialogue, but there are questions in it, things like cost of sales, things like what is Bobby Jones telling you as regards to why guest counts are declining, those type of things, and the request to get more detail on some of the bigger variances, please. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
Nico Sergio. Tom, you said that there were issues in the workshop. Do you mean in the workshop or the executive session? Because I'm understanding that after the workshop, they go into executive
If you want to direct
session.
your questions to the board about what we do in the executive session or the public session, direct them to the board. Tom does not speak for the board. on
Okay, thank you. Are these discussions that you take place in executive session in these financial things? And can we get more information about what is discussed in the executive session?
Well, we put the topics in that we're discussing. It's at the end of this report. You'll see it, or I'm sorry, of yesterday's report. So we give you all the topics, number one. Number two, the board is not the only person that reviews these financials. The Financial Advisory Committee goes through them. They went through them last week. The board had not even seen them yet. But financials, like anything, are really tied to the operations and what's going on in the operations. And these are ongoing documents. We don't wait until we get the financials to ask about things that are going on operationally. So there's a lot of discussion about these things. Sometimes it's about the financials, sometimes it's about operations. But just because you don't hear a question raised here, that's not a good assumption that it hasn't been asked. But at the same time, I'm not sure that it's best use of the community's time to go through all the questions that a board member may ask about these things. So if you want to know, if there's questions you've got, that's what this is about, to ask those questions. You can come up to any board member and we'll try to tell you what we know, and if we don't know, we'll try to get you the answer. And we're going to go through some today that were from last month's meeting where we didn't have the answer there, and we're going to give you the answers now because we went out and did the research. So making general statements that the board is not looking at this, or we're not sharing things, or we're not talking to people is not really a true statement. And I would also say specifically about Bobby Jones, it's not in their best interest to have them lose money. They're incented to do well. So why in the world, if you're incented to do well, would you want to take away your incentive? That would make no sense at all. So there's a lot to the statement you've made, Tom, and some of it is beyond the scope of what we can get into in a board meeting, okay? All right. Any other questions? All right, hearing none, General Manager's report.
Good morning. Thank you for being here. It's my pleasure to be here. I've been here a little over 30 days now, and just wanted to briefly highlight for you some of what I've been exploring and going through since I got here. So with that, and in embracing the Tennessee Vol colors, my General Manager update. So after 30 days, now the fun begins. I first want to thank, obviously, the Board of Directors, committees, the SMTs, the interim General Manager, Russ Curtis, everyone for their, not only their welcome, all of you as well that have approached me and welcomed me, but you know, sharing with me their insights and knowledge and really helping me to get a good idea of the picture here and where we are and where we're going. So one of my top priorities when I come on board is to make one-on-one time with all of the senior management team to get to know not only them, but their operations more fully, their key staff, get a tour through all of their the operations, and understand where they are currently in this point juncture of this fiscal year. Discuss a bit about some of their thoughts on the forecast and the upcoming summer season, and assess future goals and prospective needs as we move through this fiscal year and start looking ahead into the next year. So that is just about completed. I have 2 SMTs to wrap up with this week, and that's been a very productive process. I participated in numerous meetings with the board and other key committees, and was able to discuss with them key items such as club governance, best practices from my experience in my career, as well as what they're embracing and have doing currently. Discussing the current budget and the capital initiatives, much of which is ongoing and has been shared with you and will continue to be as we move forward. I've had the privilege and opportunity to meet with local government officials and area business leaders to establish a relationship, get to know one another, establish a working relationship going forward for the betterment of not only Fairfield Glade, but the greater Cumberland County community. I've got some additional meetings coming up in the coming weeks that I'm looking forward with to meet with our representatives, and that's always a very productive thing, and it really has been a pleasure getting to know them. I did meet with the senior executives of Bobby Jones Links, again, to get to know them a little better, understand their operation, their business model not only overall, but here at, get to know a little bit better about what their goals are here at Fairfield Glade. We discussed the current budget that was adopted and put in place by them, and discussed current operations, concerns, attaboys, accomplishments, and what some of the goals are for this second quarter of this fiscal year. And those will continue. I have arranged for a weekly meeting, phone conference, Zoom, with their senior executives, and also expect to receive a monthly report from them on their status report as to food and beverage operations, and I'll look forward to sharing highlights of that report with all of you. As was just shared with you by Greg Jones and his across the board, have met with the CFO final candidates for the Chief Financial Officer and narrowed it down to 2, and of which they were here. One candidate was here all day on Friday, and as Greg shared, spent an extensive all-day site, did a tour with me, met with the SMTs, met with the board members, and we have now wrapped that up as of Monday. We're in the process of, again, of assessing and reaching back out to our, in the coming days, to our, my final selection. We'll keep you abreast on that. I was able to attend a breakfast meeting that was put together by Mary Jo Page, as well as was participated with Jeff Houston, who did an outstanding presentation on all of the good things about the golf program and golf operations we have here. It was a really good opportunity to meet the area realtors, get to know them better, them to get to know me, but more importantly, get to know what we do here at Fairfield Glade and how that can assist them and give them the information and the knowledge they need to be better informed and have the tools to increase their sales and their marketing efforts. So it was a really good meeting. We're going to continue that, and my kudos to Mary Jo Page and her efforts in that with bringing that all together. I was also able to host an informative meet and greet reception. These had already been put in place by Mary Jo again, as well as Russ Curtis, and this was held in late April. Might have been 1st of May. I think it's late April, but yeah. And it was really well attended. We had about 40 new residents that came and shared with us. We shared with them Just to give you an idea, the room was set up over here, tables all around the room with all of the SMTs had a table for their respective areas of responsibility, and they were able to go around the room and learn what services are provided, what they do, a bit more about Fairfield Glade, and they were encouraged to do so because Mary Jo had put together a great kind of trivia game with all the fun facts to learn and know about Fairfield Glade and the Fairfield Glade operation, history as well as operations. And then a completed sheet was turned in, and we had a lovely gift basket for the name that was drawn after that. So just a fun interaction, really, not only for us, but also for the residents to get to know one another. A lot of them had a lot of common interests, common backgrounds, which really helps to bring them and integrate them more into the community as they continue to enjoy their lives and their experiences here at Fairfield Glade. So a really good event. And going forward, I look to continue the good start that we're off to here and continuing to work with the team. We're very blessed here at Fairfield Glade. It's a beautiful community. You have a lot to be thankful for in your lives that you enjoy here. And I look forward to being a productive part of that and have a fun summer season. Thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions? Very good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I do want you to note one thing that Bill said in there, and it's very important. The hiring of the CFO is his basic decision. The person's going to be working for him, not the board or a committee, but they're going to have to work with the board, and they're going to have to work with the SMTs, so therefore it's appropriate for those people to be involved in the selection. But at the end of the day, if we've got 11 votes between the SMTs and the board, he's probably got 12. So, and that's an important note to make sure that you understand, because this is truly an operational position. It's not a board position. The only position that reports to the board directly, and we have compensation decisions over and that type of thing, is the GM. And that's why that was a board decision. So just so we're clear with it and you understand what we're trying to do. Okay, Barb, resort report.
Good morning. Month-to-date Wyndham visitors is 2,316. Year-to-date, 14,610. As far as like revenue, the center generated 50,500 year-to-date at 28% of like revenue. Racket Sports, 4,400, which is 4%. Dartmoor, 6,800, 14%. St. George, 2,000, which is 5%. Golf, 110,300, which is 7%. And food, 79,200, which is 10%. And a total of Wyndham is 253,376, which is an average of 9%. Unfortunately, we're down about 32,000 from last year, and I checked with the occupancy this weekend, and we're going to be up to 85% this weekend. So things are going to start happening as far as the Wyndham visitors coming back to our resort. Thank you.
And just as a add-on to that, the one question about what was happening was one of the questions that was left over from last month's board meeting. So that is the explanation that we know at this point from Wyndham. Thank you, Barb.
Mm-hmm.
Kathy Tipton, Election Committee.
Good morning. Thanks for having me. So we hope everyone has seen and read the committee's recent article detailing current board member Scott Hardiman's thoughts and reflections about his service on the Community Club Board of Directors. The article, which was published in the Glade Sun, is also available on the homepage of the club's website under the 2024 Board of Directors election section. 2 at-large director positions are open for election this year, and due to club bylaw term limits, 2 director positions currently serving may not run for re-election. I'm going to be repeating some of those things that Greg said earlier. But they do say that hearing the same thing twice helps us learn it. The election committee is encouraging every member to consider how he or she can pay it forward by serving on the board of directors. I'd like to thank my fellow club member who spoke at Tuesday's Capital Funding Town Hall and encouraged us all to consider running for one of the 2 open positions. He said, and it is so true, that we need dedicated, committed people to run for our board. The committee thinks of the election cycle in 3 parts. First is the application period, which began Monday, May 20th, and ends at noon, Wednesday, June 5th. As you exit today, I hope you'll stop and take a look at the monitor screens. We do have displays up, if you'll stop and take a look at that highlight the application period, which Mary Jo's team helped us create this year, so take a look at those. The next part of the cycle is learning about the candidates. As soon as we can, after June 5th, the committee will have candidate biographies available in various publications available to the membership. For example, in the newspaper and on the club website. Later in June, the election committee will publish candidates' answers to committee questions that we believe will broaden the community's knowledge of the candidates. Thursday, July 25th, here at the center, we hope you will join the committee to learn more about the candidates as they respond to questions submitted by members of the community. Attendees will have an opportunity to ask questions and talk with the candidates. Last, voting matters. Voting via electronic ballot begins Monday, August 12th and ends Friday, September 6th at 11:59 p.m. Be sure to watch for your ballot via email and contact the administrative office if you do not receive your electronic ballot. The annual meeting is where results of the election will be announced here at the center on Friday, September 20th. Thank you. Are there any questions? Yes.
Good. Please come up so people that are streaming can.
I just want to know what are the qualifications that you will be looking for a board member? What do you consider qualifications?
Let's repeat the question because we have people that are out in the audience that are streaming. They can't hear you from there.
Greg mentioned that earlier in his comments, what the qualifications are, if Greg would like to repeat those.
Yeah. Well, the bylaws says that you have to be a property owner here for at least 3 years. But with the applications and what we're going to go through the other process of the orientation, we have a list of characteristics that we want to go through with candidates to tell people what we're looking for in a good candidate. Now, that's a couple-page document, so I'm not going to read through that right here. But this orientation program that we're putting on next Wednesday, the 29th, I highly encourage people, if you're just thinking about running, come. Because what you're going to hear are the documents that are important to being a board member. You're going to hear, and we'll have a give and take about some of the issues that the board is facing right now. We can't go into a whole lot of detail with that because of non-disclosure information. But the fact of the matter is that this is your opportunity to get a sense of what it feels like to be a board member. And I highly encourage you, if you're thinking about it even, for some reason, and I never have understood this since I lived here, people want to wait till the last minute to get their applications in because they don't want to disclose that they're running for the board. That's a terrible mistake in my mind, because some of the things we're trying to put in place now will help you understand what being on a board means. And I can honestly tell you from my own experience, this is my 4th year. The first year, this first 6 months, it was drinking from a fire hose. I didn't understand all the documents that I should have at that point. I didn't understand all the functioning of the board and how it worked with committees and how it worked with the staff and how it worked with the other people or where its role it was in the community. If you don't get a sense for that, you're going to walk in, if you're elected in September, and you're going to be way behind because the board doesn't stop. It keeps going. So if you're interested at all, even if you haven't filled out an application and you just want to get a better sense of the things that are important, please come to that meeting and attend the meetings that the election committee has set up. But there are, if you get the application, it's on the application, we put it, the characteristics of what we're looking for in a good board member. So even if you're just thinking about it, pick up the application, take a look at it, try to understand what we're looking at. And anyone sitting around here will be more than happy to talk to you about it, okay? And we'll give you our perspectives as we sit in these seats of what it's like. And you can get that same perspective from Bill because he interacts with a lot of us. Same with the SMTs. So ask people, do your homework, and make sure you understand what you're getting into. As far as the election committee, I also would like to just take a minute and thank them for all the hard work. These people you don't see very often. But believe me, they put in a lot of time getting this place where we need to be for an election. And it's not a slow news item. I've only come to really understand how much of that work is because the president is the liaison with the election committee, and this is my first year doing that. So you get a very different appreciation of what it takes to put on an election when you actually are dealing with those committees. And I want to thank all the people from the election committee for all the hard work they're doing.
Thank you, Greg. And to answer your question, also, if you go to the club's website on the homepage when you log in as a member, there is a section for the election, and all of the information that you might want to take a look at will tell you more about what it takes to apply to be a candidate. So I encourage you to take a look at that. Thank you.
And by the way, the correct characteristics document also tells you what we're not looking for in a board member. Okay? Okay. Unfinished business, there is none. We got one piece of new business, which is the appointment of a committee member to the environmental committee. And again, I know this sounds kludgy, but we don't talk about the person's name because we want them to hear it from the chairperson before they hear it over a streaming about who it is or that type of thing. And I understand that sounds so backward that it causes some issues for you, but this is where we are. So, Bruce?
I make the motion that the candidate for environmental committee appointment be approved.
I'll second that.
I want to make sure that everyone does understand this approval will be for just the end of the year, till the end of 2024. This person can apply again when we seat the committees in September, October timeframe. So they would be eligible to come in and look for a regular 3-year term, okay? Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Amenity reserve fee increases. Bruce?
I make the motion the board approve the strategy as presented at the May 21st Town Hall meeting to reflect funding for POA amenity and reserve capital projects.
Now that presentation, I'm sorry, is there a second?
Oh, yeah, I'll second that.
That presentation is on the website, so you can go through it. Those of you that were streaming or were at the meeting, you've already heard everything that's in it. And this is just a motion to say that what we presented is what we plan on doing. Is there any discussion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, you got another one.
I make the motion the board approve effective July 1 that the amenity reserve fee on property transfers be increased according to the following schedule. First, from the current $1,200 for a home to $5,000 per home. From the current $400 for an A2 lots to $1,667. From the current $200 for B lots to $833. From the current $40 for C lots to $167.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Now, let's make sure everyone understands what we're doing here. These are the fees that are paid at closing when the transfer of property takes place. This is not a special assessment or that people are going to receive or anything like that. This is done at the closing when property is transferred from one entity to another, all right? So this is not anything that's going to increase your assessments or your monthly costs or anything like that, all right? So I want to be sure everyone understands. And that's all detailed out in the presentation that was gone over on Tuesday. And by the way, I'm going to put in another commercial here. These meetings that we're having as town halls are important. We talked about things that are going to affect this community for 10 years plus. And I got to tell you, I was a little surprised that we didn't have more people there. And it's disappointing because these are major decisions that are being made with the community, and I guarantee you, 2 years from now, some people are going to want to revisit all of them. And boards then are going to come back and say, this is where we are. So I encourage you, like the Druid one coming up, come and see what the committee has done. See what we're doing with Druid. It'll answer your questions, and you'll get an opportunity to interact with the steering committee and ask them the questions you may want to know about Druid. But if you don't come, then don't complain when you say, well, gee, how did you get to that point? We'll have those discussions there. We had a lively one Tuesday, and that's okay. That's what those are for. So please come and encourage your other friends to come. These are important things that we're talking about. Unless you got a comment on the motion on the board, I'd like you to wait for the member section, okay?
It's a comment about the amenity reserve fee.
Okay?
Okay.
As I understand it, the amenity reserve fee was started in 2013. A friend of mine put their house up for sale, and they were in the process of selling their home and purchasing another home here. And they were told that I think it was if they did that process within a year or some time frame, they would not have to pay it because on their new home because they've been here for a while. So I wanted to get a little clarification on how that process
That's a true
works.
statement. So if you buy a home and then within a year, you won't be subject to these fees. That policy is not changing. All we're saying is that within that policy, these are the new values.
Greg, just to be clear,
Yeah.
it's if I own a home here and I buy another home.
Yeah.
As long as I do that within 12 months, I do not have to pay the amenity reserve fee for the new home I just bought. Is that clear?
Okay? Any other? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. I think that's it for you, Bruce. The two things that were not talked about in there are the loan, and we're not taking any action on the loan now because we need to get a better idea of the timing of when we'd actually do it. And as those of you that were at the presentation saw, it's a 2-year interest-only loan. That's the drawdown period. And then after that, it's a 10-year amortized loan. So that's what we're doing there. But that schedule has not been set in terms of when we'd actually do that. So now, Jeff, you're up.
Trying to keep us on schedule here. I'm here for, I've got 5 cars today for funding. Our first one is the Heatherhurst parking lot seedling and striping. It's for $35,000. These are reserve fund items that come through the reserve fund.
I'll make a motion to approve the $35,000 for Heatherhurst parking lot.
I second the motion.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
The second one is course improvements. It's $56,000. We had $17,000 per course, and that came up to $85,000. We used approximately $17,000 out of that for Dorchester for the new tees and $11,000 on a previous car for Stonehenge. So I'm asking for $56,000 in course improvements.
Make a motion to approve the $56,000 for course improvements.
I'll second the motion.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
The next one is for golf course repairs. It's $96,345. That's $25,000 per facility per course. So it comes up to $100,000, and $36,55 was used for the new tees at Dorchester. So we took that off, and it's $96,345.
I make a motion to approve the $96,345.
I second the motion.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Golf course cart paths and bridges repairs, $100,000. That's $25,000 for Druid and Dorchester and $50,000 for Heatherhurst. We had a $35,000 car previous for Stonehenge for concrete cart paths, so that's $100,000 that we would use to spend on the cart path repairs.
I make a motion to approve $100,000 for cart path and bridge repairs.
I second the motion.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
The last one is $50,000 for golf course irrigation repairs. This is to work on the irrigation systems at all the golf courses. $10,000 was in the reserve study for each of the courses, so $50,000.
Make a motion to approve $50,000 for irrigation repairs on the golf courses.
I second the motion.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
Bruce Evans.
Good morning. These are reoccurring capital expenditures, not from the reserve study. So the amounts that I'm going to be presenting in the three cars are budgeted, are approved in the 2024 budget. I have not solicited quotes this year. I will be working with my assistant manager to find the best deal possible for newer used equipment, and if I get prior approval, we can usually close the deal much quicker and get a better deal. So the first one is for a new backhoe loader to replace one of our backhoes. The budget amount is $145,000, so I'm looking for approval for $145,000 for a replacement backhoe.
I'll make a motion to approve $145,000 for the backhoe loader replacement.
May I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Thank you. The next item is budgeted for $35,000. It's a new rock hammer for one of our backhoes to beat rock to allow us to install grinder pumps. The rock hammer gets used on about 50% of all grinder pump installs, and the one we have now is 15 years old. It's time to be replaced. So I'm looking for approval on $35,000 for a new rock hammer.
Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion for $35,000 for the rock hammer replacement.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
And the last one is for $65,000 to replace our grinder pump service truck, 2015 grinder pump service truck. The truck rolls 365 days a year to respond to grinder pump alarm calls, and it's critical that we keep it on the road and in operable condition. So asking the board to approve a $65,000 expenditure for that to replace our grinder pump service truck.
Do I hear a motion to approve?
I will make a motion to approve $65,000 for the F-250 truck replacement.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. Chief Self.
Good morning. Can you guys hear me? There we go. Good morning. So I am presenting or requesting a car for $40,000 for a patrol fleet vehicle. These funds are going to be reallocated. Funds are approved in the 2024 capital budget. This vehicle, sorry, it's a little confusing. This vehicle is going to be a replacement vehicle for a projected vehicle that will be rolled off this year. Any questions?
Do I hear a motion to approve?
I make a motion to approve $40,000 for the police department vehicle.
Do I hear a second?
I have a second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Thank you.
I'm going to, again, make sure, I keep coming back to this reserve study so people understand what we're doing here. The approvals for the ones in golf are all reserve study items. We're going to do some process improvement for next year in the budget process where These typically are ones that are going to be items that'll go on throughout the year. So the sooner that we get the funds approved, even though you'll see them in the budget as part of the reserve thing, when we approve those, then that allows the SMT and the operations group to go out and actually do these repairs when it makes sense to do them, as opposed to waiting and then coming in at the last minute after the repair has gotten bigger and asking for the money. So we're going to make that as an improvement for next year in the budget process. You'll still see the reserve, and you'll still understand exactly what's coming out, but it will be done at an earlier date. The second thing is all the ones that Bruce talked about do not come out of the reserve study that we have.
Right.
Though the sewer department or wastewater department, I shouldn't say sewer, huh? But the wastewater department basically has their own set of funds, and they cannot be commingled with the community. They're separate funds, and that's by the covenants and restrictions as well. So whenever Bruce gets up and talks about a car, it's coming out of a separate bucket of capital dollars that is a part of what the reserves are for the wastewater department, not the community club's typical reserve, okay? All right. Major capital projects. Druid Hills.
Okay, I didn't know I was going to do that. Druid Hills, so you heard across the board where we are with the putting course and the driving range and the performance center. And I just add the advertisement for June 6th. If you're interested in what our proposal is for the clubhouse and the site work, you need to come and attend. I will have all the committees there that put this together. We have the architect coming in from Dallas to make a presentation on the proposal, and we'll be able to answer any question you have. Our intent is to show you what came out of the surveys that we sent out to the members, plus the focus groups that we had. And we designed this building based on that feedback. And you'll hear all that on June 6th. So I encourage you to attend June 6th, 3 o'clock, right here.
Okay. Any comments from the floor? Oops, Tom. You got one that got up before you.
I'm assuming this has already taken place, but I just want to confirm it. The amenity reserve fees that you guys approved, does that motion also require that those revenues be dedicated to the capital improvements and not just used into general funds?
That's where they go.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
I thought that
No,
was
no,
the case.
yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
And thanks, Ted. That might have been one of the questions I have, and maybe you could go into it today, Greg, or Bruce Horn. For the members here, when you look at our dues, the $76, and some of it goes in, is the operations piece, then you got the capital piece, right, that you can't mix.
75%, 25%.
Right, and how those funds interact. So in other words, when they come up necessarily for expenditures, which bucket does that kind of come out of? Okay, the 75%, Bruce, you're smiling at me, I know. The 25%, because it gets even muddier on that.
It's not muddy.
Okay.
Well, if they're not designated as a capital reserve item, they're coming out of regular capital.
Okay, thank you, that's helpful. So I wanted to get up here, and it kind of stole my thunder, but the election committee, I just want to go back again. It was outstanding on how you put that together. Scott, I know you're on the phone. You did a great job. It was very helpful, and I found one of the first times that very enlightening. So thank you for that. So Greg, you mentioned on the town halls and the participation wasn't quite there, and I would agree with you. I would take and I would just ask the board to consider on these in moving forward. I think there's a part out there that's apathy, that if I go, it's already decided. And I'll give you a small example of that in my mind. And that is, we went to the town hall meeting, Today, you guys voted on the increases that we just saw, okay, at that meeting. So you got to take and you got to give a little bit more in terms of leeway. Give people a feeling that they truly, if they come, they're not only going to be heard, they get a chance to hear the information, digest it, maybe come to these meetings and discuss it a little bit further. I think that might increase the participation. So I'd ask that of the board. The next piece that I just wanted, next thing I just wanted to quickly mention was there was also discussion at that meeting, and it's been ongoing, about committees. And a wise person from this audience approached me and said, hey, why don't you think about getting on a committee and broaden your experience? And I took it to heart. I started doing some investigation into the committees. And I'm not there yet, but what I did find, it's not an easy process to understand how to get on the committees, what they do, okay? And to some extent, quite honestly, who's in charge of them? Because our website's not been that great in being updated. So we want people to participate, I think, along the lines maybe of what the election committee did. Give some background, might help people that want to take and participate.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Kathy, you want to respond? Just go on ahead. We'll be quick.
My name is Kathy Tipton, and it would be helpful if people would say their name when they come up here.
Yeah. I'm sorry, they should do that. So we have the next person.
Next person. Thank you. My name is John Sokolowski. I live at 36 Renwick Drive in Fairfield.
Can you speak better into the mic there?
Better, okay. I'll hold it. John Sokolowski. I live at 36 Renwick Drive in Fairfield. My purpose being here is to ask the board and the Property Standards Committee to consider reviewing the pet nuisance policy. As it stands, I don't feel it really is very useful. And the reason for this is on April 24th, my wife Fran and my dog Lizzie, 22-pound dog, were attacked by our neighbor's German Shepherd, which weighs 82 pounds. My wife was knocked down, hit her head, injured her knee and her back. My dog was suffered 4 deep puncture wounds on her rear. EMS and the sheriff were both called. EMS treated my wife's wounds at the site. Luckily, it was about 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and this happened in front of our house, by the way, while our dog was on a leash. The other dog was not leashed. I took Lizzie to Best Friends. She was treated for her wounds. She has since gone back twice. It appears there's no permanent damage, but the vet says in these cases, things can show up in the future. My wife's been to the doctor 3 times, had MRIs and a CT scan from falling down on the pavement. We still don't know the extent of her damages. We're waiting for the doctor to review it. And this is not the first time this happened. This dog has gotten loose at least 6 times to my personal knowledge. Twice I have informed the neighbors that their dog is running loose. They've come to get her. Another time, I've spoken to another neighbor. The dog broke loose from the owner while she was walking and attacked her and her dog on the 4th hole of the brae. Luckily, her dog was big enough to scare the dog away. Another time, another neighbor, Becky Corns, who lives on Renwick, the dog broke free again from the owner. Luckily, she was in her driveway and able to get in her garage, and no harm was done. A few days after the dog attacked my wife and my dog, the dog again got free from the owners, tried to get after another neighbor on Renwick, Kathy Britt. Luckily, she was mowing her lawn and got the lawnmower between her and the dog before the owner came to get the dog. I don't always blame the dog for this. I blame the owners because they happen to be irresponsible pet owners. Now, I know that Animal control is handled by the Cumberland County Sheriff, and we've talked to them a number of times, and they've done everything they could. However, we do have a pet nuisance policy, which I don't really think addresses any of our needs. It covers barking, trespassing, and destructive behavior, and states that when the police department is contacted, they will investigate and, if necessary, issue a notice. Now, my wife and I personally visited with the police, the captain, and he told us that unless they actually witness what's going on, they cannot issue one of these, they cannot use the pet nuisance policy. So if the police are called, and by the time they come, the incident is already over. So how can they possibly witness the event such as this? It's impossible. I spoke with the Property Standards Committee also, and they told me the same thing. So, what I'm asking for is the way that, again, the way the policy is written does not really protect the owners. I'm asking the board and the property standards, if they are involved, to come up with a way within the law to punish, and I use the word punish, the owners of dogs like this that cannot control them. They're dangerous. It's proven to be dangerous. And by the way, this I didn't mention. This was the second time my wife was bitten by this dog. The second time we were standing outside on our yard. We both have fenced yards. We were over towards their fence. My wife got too close to the fence, and the dog bit her on the hand, just stuck her snout through their fence. So I think that's all I'm asking is for the board to come up with a way to protect the owners from dogs like this, either through a hefty fine or possible rehoming of the dog. I'm not asking a dog for a bite be euthanized, but I think they should be fined and asked to rehome the dog or move out of Fairfield Glade.
Well,
Their choice.
Let me respond a little bit to that, because
Sure.
this is not the first time that we've had questions about the pet policy. And this gets at really the role of the board and the community and where we live in the larger community of the state of Tennessee and Cumberland County.
Right.
The board cannot pass laws or restrictions that are greater than what the state law is. Okay, let's start there.
Understand.
The state law does have regulations around pets and the way they have to be. I think the wording they use is under the command of the owner at all times. We can't restrict things more than that. Now, when we get into areas of fines and doing things like that, that's really on property standards that this community has said has given the board the authority to do, and where the state really doesn't participate.
Right.
Or the county. Now, that doesn't mean for property things that have standards for the county or the state, we have to follow those. We can't ignore those. So, and believe me, I get what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. But we're very limited in what we can do because we can't impose fines and we can't really enforce, we can't take actions like telling someone they've got to move because that is covered in state and county law. I hate to say it this way, but if you've been in contact with the animal control group with the sheriff, and you're probably going to have to get a hold of an attorney at some point if you want to press it.
Which we've done.
We've got limited action we can take. But Kenneth, I'll let you maybe expound on that a little bit more if you'd like.
He's a good lawyer.
We do. But the thing is, you can't find a dog, you can't find the owner for barking, according to the policy. So you can find them for barking.
There's no state regulation on barking.
Right.
But there is when it talks about command and control of the animal.
Or destructive behavior, and I consider what they did to what the dog did to my wife and dog destructive behavior. That's a pretty good example of destructive behavior, and that is one of the instances where you can find the owner. So.
Because let's suppose that you're on a trail, and it's someone outside of Fairfield Glade, and the same thing happens. We got no authority to find somebody that's not here, that a property is not a property owner.
That's not what we're asking for. We're asking for homeowners.
One thing, first thing on your item. Can they go up to the mic?
Yeah, you've got to come up to the mic. People can't hear.
Mike.
Hi, everyone, again, Chief Self. So, and I know I haven't spoke to you personally, but I know the general manager spoke to your wife. I've spoken to my supervisors, and we've also spoken to the sheriff's office, who is in charge of animal control. So our officers do respond to all animal type related incidences. Now, if it results into an injury of a person, we try to get animal control involved because that's what their expertise are. That's what their job is. They have the time and resources to manage that. Can our officers handle that? Yes, and we do when they're not available. In his case, animal control did do a good follow-up. They did try to extract evidence through video camera footage, which was not there, unfortunately. And due to these cases a lot, if we don't have evidence like injuries, which was involved in your case, we have to have evidence that it occurred if it did not occur in our presence, which is what you're stating, which that's for any case. We don't want to go by hearsay. Now, when it comes to the fine, yes, there is the barking law, which is not a criminal law, but it is a Fairfield Glade law or regulation, which we will issue a citation or a violation, a nuisance pet violation. It gets forwarded to the ACC, and they handle the fines. Now, in your case, animal control took care of it, and there's a criminal aspect, not just an ACC violation, but a criminal aspect, which is higher than an ACC violation, and a citation was issued to that dog owner. So that's even higher than an ACC violation. Now, his report was forwarded to the ACC office, so we do have this incident documented, but he's already, the actions taken on the property, or the dog owner, which is their property, is giving a criminal offense, which is higher than an ACC violation. Does that kind of clear up anything? Or did it make it muddier? Yeah. Okay.
No. And no, I agree with that. I guess I'm just looking for a way for a board or a policy to make it safer for the residents who
And I hear
are
that.
out.
I really do. But I want everyone to understand, there's limited ability for us to do things here. And this has been discussed, I know at least 2 conversations. I mean, at one point, people had come forward and said, I want every dog leashed. And we don't have that authority.
Right, because there's not a leash law in Tennessee, I understand.
And so we have to be careful here where we tread, because we can't take actions that a state governing or a county governing body has the right to do.
Okay.
I hate to say it, but most of these things get into criminal activity,
And
that's really where it has to go.
Right, and I understand, I agree with the chief that the people were issued a citation, and I think they'll end up in court, maybe. The sheriff can't even guarantee that, yes, they will end up in court because the docket is busy. So, and this, if it's not important enough for them, then, then it won't go there. But
Well, what I'll promise you is we'll review it again.
Okay.
Okay, and we'll take a look from a legal point of view, what we think we can and can't do, and we'll get back to the community on it.
Okay.
But I just want to make sure you understand, we're limited in what we can do.
And I do understand, I appreciate that.
Okay.
And just one more comment, and these people live next door to us. They previously lived at another address within Fairfield, and my wife has a relative who happens to live on the street, and the neighbors on that street were very happy when these people moved. I'll leave it at that. Thank you. Now I'm stuck with the problem. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other member comments? Come on up.
My name is Darrell DeMott. I live at 33 Renwick Drive. I was just going to ask if we have a policy or a number we should call, because it took 3.5 days to remove a dead deer that was on Stonehenge. And I wondered who is responsible for that and who's supposed to take care of it? Is there anybody who can answer that question?
Sam, I think you probably can answer that question. Come up here.
Look how excited he is.
Everybody wants to see your shining face this morning.
That's my buddy, Sam.
That's right.
Yesterday during my presentation, my thumbs were like this a lot. If nobody noticed, I don't know why I do that, but I'm going to keep from doing that again. If you have dead animals, I retrieve dead animals from the lakes. I do not retrieve dead animals from private property. I will retrieve animals from Fairfield Glade Community Club roads. I will not retrieve animals from state roads. Peavine is a state road. So if I hear about it, now, I'm sure if there was an animal on Stonehenge, thousands of people drove by it. I have 6 people in my roads department. As soon as we hear about it, we take care of it. Is there any questions on that? Please, just call my office. If there's a dead animal, we will take care of it, whether it's in the lake or whether it's on the road. Push it in the lake. I'm not trying to make, somebody called me and said, hey, I have a dead turtle in the back of my property. I said, is it in the lake? He said, no. I said, we don't take care of it. He called me back. He said, hey, there's a dead turtle in the lake. So Don Jackman will retrieve them from the lakes. He probably doesn't like that, but he does it. So is there any questions on that?
It's good to know your policies are flexible.
My people are more flexible for the most part, and I appreciate them.
Creative, yep.
Kate, were you going to add anything?
That's
or-
good. Thank you.
Come on up.
Wait a minute, I have another question.
Well, hold on. Let's finish this one first, okay?
Okay.
Kate Self
Oh,
had
she's
something
gonna-
else she
okay.
wanted to say about it.
I mean, Sam did a good job, but just to go forth with what Mr. McAdoo stated, you know, if the animal's in the roadway, please call us. We will remove it off the roadway, and we have a good working relationship with Sam's team, and we'll contact them. If it's after hours on the weekend, call us, and we will work with his team. Now, if it's at midnight and we pull a deer on the side of the road, I'm not going to expect his team to come in, but we'll try to the next working business day or when his team is available.
Don't go.
Okay.
I got another question. Okay. I want to know, can I shoot a large dog or animal that is attacking my dogs, my little dogs, I have little dogs, or my person in Fairfield?
Good question.
That's a loaded question.
It's a very loaded question. I'm just going to advise you that animals is another person's property. Now, you do have the right to defend yourself if you are in fear of your life. So that decision is going to become, if you are in fear of your life and you can justify you protecting yourself. Now, you got to understand, any use of force that you use, you're going to be held liable for.
All right, what about a wild animal?
Again, if you feel in fear of your life,
What about my dog's life? They're part
that
of my
their
family.
property, yeah, and you got, again, you have to be able to take that responsibility.
Well, I'm going to stop that conversation right here because that's really a legal question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're not in a position to give legal advice. So again, if
Yeah.
there's constraints in the law about what you can and can't do, there are constraints in the community about gun usage and that type of thing as well. So, but you really need to talk to somebody that can give you a legal opinion on that, not us.
Okay.
Okay?
I have one more question. Can you bring any weight to bear on somebody that will take and repave the areas that they've patched up on Stonehenge?
Sam. This seems to be the Sam and Kate show today.
I'm going to sit up here next time.
Yeah, I think you should.
When Crab Orchard Utility or utility companies cut roads in Fairfield Glade Community Club, this may come as a shock. They do not inform us. They do not inform us if they shut down roads in Fairfield Glade. Sometimes we find out when people call and ask why I shut down the road and I didn't. We will go out and patch those roads, those cuts. Now, somebody's going to say, why are you patching them and not them? We patch them and we bill them, okay? We cannot go out, if they dig a water line up, as disheartening as it may be, and patch that road the next day. We have to, they backfill it with gravel, there'll be a bump there, it has to settle for several days or a week or two, and then we'll come in and skim the top, patch it, and go about our business. Again, if you run into these items, please call my office, because I think human nature is somebody else will call. Somebody else will let him know, or he knows. And quite often I don't. When you call, and I had the numbers, but I don't have them, I had them last week. We write up a work order. There is a trail of it. And we will tell you, we've got a work order and we're gonna take care of it. And it may be a week or two, depending on weather or depending on workload. But those are all documented and those are billed to the utilities companies. So please, I am not, if I don't know about it, I can't suffer in silence. Nobody's doing something. Sam's not doing anything. Sam's not doing this. Sam's not doing that. If Sam doesn't know about it, if nobody reports it, again, as I said yesterday, I don't have a social media footprint. I'm not on Nextdoor. If you wait for me to see it on Nextdoor, you're just going to get more upset. If you complain about me on Nextdoor and wait for me to see it, you're going to get very upset. Okay? Any other questions for me?
I got a question.
Okay.
But, once you've repaired this.
Please talk into the mic so people hear
Once
you.
you've repaired this, and it's repaired, it becomes like a rumble strip instead of a highway or a road. Who comes back and makes it nice and smooth for us to drive down this nice Stonehenge road we have out here?
Okay. During the heavy rains, I got a call during the rains about potholes right beside the pickleball courts. I didn't know that. I was more worried about trees that were being pushed out of the way and getting roads back open. But my guys, I didn't even know they could do this. They went out in the rain and patched that pothole. Quite often, we will emergency patch something. If it deteriorates or if it turns into a rumble strip, do not hesitate to call me back and say, hey, it has deteriorated. Sometimes we will patch them and they will concave in a little bit. That's the gravel resettling. We'll rip it out and redo it. It's not a problem. Okay?
All right, thank you. I will notify you.
Okay. And I gave him my card.
Yes.
My phone number is on the website. My office is open, my door is open. I think I have 2 more cards if somebody wants it. It's not an issue, but I think people suffer in silence and they say,
right,
nobody's doing anything. And we have 196 miles of road. That's one of the trivia questions. We have 196 miles of road. If I can't be everywhere at every time.
Sam, if I may, call Sam's office. Don't put it on Nextdoor. Okay?
That's right.
I have no control over that. I have no control over that. So,
Thanks, Sam.
all right.
Okay, any other member comments? We got one area cleanup. Barb took care of her question, but there was a couple questions, Nico, you asked last month.
Yep.
And we got answers for you.
Yeah.
So go on ahead.
Nico, you asked the question, and let me know if I'm either reading it wrong or paraphrasing. You asked if, for lots turned over to the community prior to 2018 and sold after 2018, did we collect the availability fees, and were those fees deposited in the sewer account? Yes. Full stop. They were done. Collected, deposited, stayed in the sewer account, where it belongs. Your second question was, do we collect a $2.50 fee if the availability is charged? Answer is yes, and that's an admin fee. What happens actually, the transaction is Bruce's outfit pays us for the administration of that transfer. Thank you.
Okay.
Uh-oh, yes.
Come
The
up here.
number of them? Sure, go ahead.
When you did this research, did you come up with a count of the sewer availability fees that were
I didn't do it,
collected?
I did not do a total because it went back, and here was one of the interesting, part of the thing that needed to be done because it was done before our new system, do the software upgrade. We had to go back and look this stuff up separately. So what I did get, though, is I got an actual count of the number to make sure everything jibed of that period. And it was 412 units or transactions of the availability fee collected.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Any other board member comments? If not,
Here you go, Ellen.
Motion to adjourn.
is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you all for coming. Good meeting today. Glad you guys were here to interact with us.
I gotta go.